What's up, guys? It's Dirty Yugi from Dirty and the Boys, and today we have Andy again. It's a pretty highly requested combo tutorials with the deck, and this is the Phantom Knight deck. Andy, take it away with a few combos.
Alright, so I wanted to start off by showcasing probably 3 of the most common combos, so you guys can get a feel for how the deck works. So for this first one, I wanted to just showcase Tour Guide plus any discards. We'll use Twin Twister to show it literally does not matter what it is. We're going to normal summon Tour Guide. Tour Guide's going to get our graph from the deck. And then we're going to link these 2 level 3s away to summon out Cherubini, which triggers the graph that we linked off to get the sear out of the deck. Now from here, we're going to link 3, we're going to use Cherubini first to send our gloves from deck to graveyard. You're going to always want to get in the habit of just putting gloves in the graveyard first thing, because this way, when you make the Rusty Bardiche, this Rusty here is going to be your 5th summon. So this way, if you do get Nibiru'd here, which Sear will also revive the Cherubini. If you do get Nibiru'd here, it's not going to hurt nearly as bad because you can just use the gloves effect to send one of the traps to revive Rusty and try again anyways. But now that we're here, we're going to use the effect of Rusty to send our Torn Scale to the graveyard. And we're also going to set a trap card. So we're going to set our... Doesn't really matter if you set Shade Brigandine or Fogblade here, but if you know you want the 2 Fogblade board, we're going to send one of them right now. So the next step is going to be using the effect of the gloves to send a cloak from deck to grave, and that will trigger the Torn Scale to revive itself, because we did just banish a Phantom Knight card. Then we can use the effect of the Torn Scales, discarding whatever the other card was, so in this case it was Twin Twister if you remember from earlier. We're going to send from deck to grave. If we did not have gloves in grave already, this is where we would probably be sending it, but since we did, we're going to just send Sword. We're going to use this Fogblade is set, by the way. We're going to use the effect of Sword in the grave to summon back the Cloak. The Cloak's effect will then boost Rusty's attack by 800. We can then overlay 2 to make our first Levier. Then we're going to use the effect of our Levier, detaching the Cloak, to summon back our banished copy of Gloves. We're going to use the effect of Cloak, search Boots, special summon that as well, make our second Levier, and now you'll notice we still have a banished monster to bring back, and if we did not use the Cloak to boost earlier, we can do it now. Now we have 2 Xyz monsters that are not numbers that we can use to make our F-Zero package. So we now have a way to establish a monster negate before we commit to the Anaconda, so our Anaconda will not just get Veilered and stop the Dragoon from coming out. We also have no traps in grave with a boots in grave. So this is where we have 2 different lines of combo we can go down. We could either link these off and make Anaconda, which brings out our Dragoon, or we could use the boots to add Brigandine, and we can make our Apollosa. For the sake of this combo, we're just going to say we will banish our boots to get our... We'll put this over here, because I am trying to do this upside down, it's a little awkward right now. We're going to add our Brigandine, we'll set it, activate it, summon it, link it off for Link Spider, and then we can link 4, and this gives us an Apollosa for 3 materials. Now, this is an example board that gives us effectively 5 negates off of a 2-card combo, or keep in mind this could have been Anaconda Dragoon and a second Fogblade off of the boot search instead of this. And if you look at our graveyard, we have a Cloak, a Torn Scale, and a Gloves to be able to play the entire grind game with a Fogblade that's set that can be banished during our opponent's turn to bring back the Rusty, so we have all kinds of follow-up. So now we're going to transition into the second combo. And this next one I wanted to showcase is the Torn Scale combo plus either Cloak or Gloves. And I wanted to showcase this one because a lot of people think you need to play Stained Greaves for this one, and I want to show you that you don't have to. So we're going to start with Torn Scale. We're going to discard either the Cloak or the Gloves, and we're going to send whichever of the 2 we did not open with. We're going to use the effect of our Cloak to search a Boots. Special summon the Boots so that we have our 2 level 3s to make our Cherubini. This part should look pretty familiar up to this point. Next up is going to be using our Cherubini's effect to send our Graph, because this combo we didn't open Tour Guide to get us there, so we're sending Graph, and Graph is going to get us the Sear. Now, Instead of going straight into the Bardiche that you guys might be familiar with, we're going to go with the effect of our Ragged Gloves to send from deck to grave, the Sword, which triggers the Torn Scale to revive it. Now, we're going to overlay for our Levier here. Doing this, we're going to make sure that we do not detach the Sear. That's very important for later. Detach to summon back our whichever monster, doesn't really matter at this point. Banish Sword, revive a monster, so we're going to revive the Torn Scale. In case we get punished in some way, like Nibiru, we still have this to search a Brigandine or other extenders, and that, or to searching more Fog Blades for more negates that way. Overlay for our second copy of Levier. Levier effect, detach, doesn't really matter what we detach this time, bring back this. Now we're going to make sure, before we go anywhere into the F-Zero play, keep in mind Sear is underneath this Levier, and we want to make sure that Sear revives the Cherubini. So we're going to go straight into our Rusty now.
I like Sting Laser. Sting Laser feels like...
So, now that we've done this, we still have access to 2 Exceeds monsters that are not numbers, that can be linked off, overlaid into our F-Zero, which triggers the Sear that was detached off of the Levier to bring back our Cherubini. Then we can summon out our F-Zero Draco Future, and we still have the effect of our boots that we have not used yet, which can get our Shade Brigandine, which we can set, activate because we have no traps in our graveyard. Link this off for a Link Spider, so it's an effect monster, and we still have our Anaconda, which of course gets us the Dragoon after we send our pieces. So, Vanilla Monster, Red Eyes Fusion, and Vanilla Monster. And we still have not even used the Rusty effect yet, which gets us a Fog Blade and another monster in the graveyard. So let's just say we're sending a Torn Scale, so that way if we use one of our traps like this Fog Blade on our opponent's turn, and they link away the monster that this was attached to, this will hit the grave, we banish it, we revive Rusty again, and that triggers Torn Scale to revive itself. Then we don't have to worry about not having another Torn Scale in the graveyard as well, to also revive that one on our turn, so we have 2 level 3s to make the easiest Break Sword follow-up imaginable, next to a Rusty Arrow for another free pop. So that's that combo that still showcases why you don't need Stained Greaves. And then the third combo I wanted to showcase in depth was the what if you just don't open any of your normal summons combo. So let's say you have 2 level 3 monsters and any discards. So we're going to say, for sake of argument, let's say we open like Kagemucha Knight, a second Kagemucha Knight, and like an Ash Blossom or something. So what we can do with this hand is we can normal summon the Ash. Unironically, it kind of matters this is a level 3. Kagemucha Knight's effect activates in hand to summon it. We're going to link these 2 off to make Cherubini. Now from here we have Cherubini's effect, send the graph, and the graph gets us the Sear. This part should still be fresh in your mind from before. Link 3, this time we don't really have a way to get another Phantom Knight loaded up, so we do just have to accept that the Rusty is going to be only getting us 1 Phantom Knight this way. Sear's reviving Cherubini. Rusty's effect is going to send specifically the Cloak here. We just can't get to Torn Scales this game, we have to accept that, to set a Fog Blade. Next up, we're going to use the effect of Cloak to get us a Boots, because we do still control a Phantom Knight monster being the Rusty. Special Boots, link off. This is still our good old-fashioned Verte plus Dragoon, which of course sends the pieces to make that happen. And we still have the Boots that's in the graveyard that we can banish to get another Fog Blade. The reason we kept this extra card in hand that we're not going to make too much mention of here is that we just needed something in our hand to be the discard for the Dragoon, more so than anything else. And this still gets us into pretty similar combos. Otherwise, if you don't want the 2 Fog Blades here, you could instead have the Rusty set your Brigandine, and you can save your extenders that way, which might even give you the Rusty plus Apollosa for 3 with 1 Fog Blade, if you prefer that. Personally, I just assume if it's a game where I'm not getting to any Phantom Knight names, which is very few and far between anyways, just based on the math, it still saves you in terms of having like 3 disruptions that are still very solid disruptions. Then there's a couple other small little scenarios that people will always ask about, like what if you draw like the Burning Abyss cards? Like these are bricks. So I wanted to showcase quickly like what if you draw both Graph and Sear? What kind of combos can you do with this? So we're going to use the effect of the Graph in the hand to special summon itself because we have no spell and traps. Next up, we're going to go on ahead and use our Sear as our normal summon for this turn. Link 2 away for our Cherubini. Sear will not revive a Cherubini, it'll instead revive Graph, which allows us to go... In this case, we have not used Cherubini's effect to send from deck to grave, so now we can send an actual Phantom Knight monster. So similar to before, we're sending Gloves because we're trying to get in that habit of sending it to be extra safe when we make the Rusty. This gets us the Rusty. Now we still have access to the Rusty sending the Torn Scale that we want with either the Shade Brigandine or the Fog Blade that we want. In this case, we are currently lacking one true extender, so to be on the safe side, we might as well just take our Brigandine, which we can set it, activate it, summon it, link it off. That gets us our Link Spider. We can still banish Gloves, sending a Cloak, which triggers the Torn Scale to summon it. I should have mentioned we should have had another card in hand with those Sear and Graph cards earlier, so we'll say this is going to be our discard for our Torn Scale, so we get to still keep going. Sending our Trap card for extension, so we're going to send Sword. We can still banish Gloves, or excuse me, Cloak to search Boots. Special the Boots, overlay, and make our first Levier. Detach, summon, effect an attack position to put itself into defense to boost the rest of its attack. Use the Sword, summon, 2 level 3s again. Second Levier. Detach, summon from banished. Still have the F-Zero. And we of course still have 2 effect monsters that can be linked off to make our Verity Dragoon. And we also still have a Boots Search, which gets us an additional Fog Blade, which can be held as our discard for the Dragoon, or we can set it, which is obviously a really strong disruption, because we don't want to just get Zeused and lose a lot of our board here. So even with the weird brick hands, like both Burning Abysses are not that bad. So let's also just go over one other example where you opened pretty decently well, except you still drew the Sear, which is a very realistic one. If you draw the Graph, it's much easier because you can just discard the Graph off of the Torn Scale's discard cost and circumvent some of your other combo routes. But the hands where you do open the Sear, even if it's like Sear plus Tour Guide, or like Sear plus Tour Guide, or excuse me, like Sear plus Torn Scales plus Good Discard, they will be a little awkward. So we're going to once again showcase a variation on the Tour Guide combo here, where you drew the Sear. So we're going to normal summon our Tour Guide, and we're going to use Tour Guide's effect. Tour Guide's going to get us the second Tour Guide out of our deck, because there's not really a whole lot of reason to get the Graph unless you just want to get it out of your deck. Either is fine.
We're narrowing down the selection.
Link 2. Make Cherubini. Cherubini's effect is going to make sure that we send our Gloves. Same as always, this part's not changed a single little bit here. Now, we will have to use the Sear's effect to special summon it from the hand because we control no spells and traps. Link 3. Make Rusty. Rusty effect is still going to send our Torn Scale as before, which also is going to get us our trap card of choice. And since we kind of need the extender if we use the Sear the way that we did, we're going to set the Brigandine here. Banish Gloves, send from deck to grave, the Cloak. Triggering Torn Scales to revive itself. Torn Scales effect, discard, send an extender. So we're going to send either Sword or Fog Blade, doesn't really matter at this point. Sword, special, effect, boost the Rusty, Levier, detach, summon from banished. We still have not used the Boots this turn, so we're going to search the Boots off of the Cloak. Special it, overlay, second Levier, detach, special the banished. We still have our F-Zero package.
I'm summoning.
And then we still have 0 traps in our graveyard because we made sure to banish the sword already. Set Brigandine, activate it, summon it, blink it off into Spider, Link 2, after we use the boost of the cloak if we have not already, Anaconda Dragoon, while also still having the boots in the grave to get us the Fog Blade. I really hope that that was a good enough example for all the combos for you guys, and please leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more.